Pain. I have learned over time that pain has a personality. It can take over completely, to either paralyze you in defeat, or propel you in strength, to a place where you find purpose. It could be the pain of a business loss, a relationship gone sour, a failed career, a failed marriage, or, in my case, a child buried too early. Whatever your pain is, you can choose how to allow that pain to determine the outcome of your life. Walk with me through my journey of how I have allowed my pain to grow into a purpose so amazing and glorious. Justin. Growing Through the Pain of Loss is a real-life account worth reading. Get your copy from Amazon and other leading online retail bookstores.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of Author's Corner, where we talk everything books, everything book publishing. Firstly, we want to thank you again, as we always do, for all the support, for all the feedback. The programs continue to grow. Thank you for being there with us right from the start of these broadcasts. Aki.
Like Akin said, I want to say a big thank you to everyone. Everyone that's popped onto YouTube, popped onto Facebook, popped onto Instagram, LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your encouragement. We're very grateful. And over the next, well, actually, I won't say over the next couple of weeks, but once you would have noticed that we've got another program we've been running since June, and that's called Through My Eyes. And I mean, that's been a wonderful experience. And over the next couple of weeks, it's gonna expand. It's a program where we invite specialists from different fields of life to just come in and talk about their field. And it's explosive. The knowledge that comes out of that program is mind blowing. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, we've had Professor Akinyemi, and that man is just a wealth of knowledge. But we've got things in the pipeline. I just want to encourage you to just keep popping on, keep looking on. There's something new coming out every week now.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think you referred to this diplomacy masterclass there, and one of the interesting things about that session is I encourage everybody, please go to our Facebook page. The clip is there on Facebook. The clip is on I think it's on Twitter as well at the moment. So please do go to these channels, listen to those things. They are really life-changing. And also, as Akin said, there's another program starting tomorrow under the Through My Eyes umbrella, which is the Through My Eyes technology. We're focusing on the technology side of things now, and we're starting to look at the areas that will bring more growth to people in what they do. So thank you for that. Let's now get back into publishing, the world of publishing. Excellent. Yes, so we've covered quite a lot of topics when it comes to publishing. We covered self-publishing versus traditional publishing. Again, go on YouTube, the clips are there. What to know to publish your book, the first session, the second session. This is the third in the series, so we've covered quite a lot of ground. Covered the whole conversation around book sizes. We covered the book cover, what you need to consider regarding your book cover, the blurb. And that was a fascinating one, because every time, as soon as we talked about one area, and then another one pops into the mind, and we just had to cover so many things on the one relating to the book cover. We touched on book formats. We talked about our production process, what we do when we go into the production process. We touched on that. We touched on distribution as well, making sure that your book is where people can buy it. And we're going to be building on that today. We're going to touch on marketing. We're going to touch on royalties. That's one of the most exciting parts about being an author. When the money starts to roll in, the royalties start to roll in. That's the exciting bit for me, really. And we'll take you through all of that today. We're going to touch on those points. So, Akin, where does the conversation on costing start from?
Costing. Well, you'd say initially there's the part of costing, which is what is required to make your book in the first place. So we're looking at the number of pages, the kind of cover you have. So there's that aspect. Then we're also looking at what genre is your book, and what are the prices of books within that, within that genre and all that. So there's that part too. And then obviously there's so obviously based on the genre and there's also the part where how big is your book. So if that book is, well, let me put it like this: you need to compare your book to what's out there. Look at the costing, look at the prices of the books that are out there. That's your book kind of falls into that same category, and see whether your book can, that's where the costing kind of begins, and that's where you begin to pick what price your book will be. But I think the initial part is how, how much does it actually cost you to make your book, because your book cannot be less than how much you've made it. So there's no, you can't make a book for £6 and sell it for £5.99. It's not going to happen. You understand? So I think that's the first part.
Yeah, and that's very important, because for some people, they may just want all the bells and whistles on the cover, the embossment, and all these kind of things. But then ultimately, it depends on how much the reader will be willing to part with for your book. And I think one other area that's important, apart from the base price you want to put on, the base cost you want to put on the book, is the fact that you may want to consider when we talk about royalties, playing around with your royalties a little bit, because sometimes some people want to make the most money out of the very first book. While that is not impossible, it's also important to realize that some of the authors out there that you may want to consider yourself with may actually have been in the game a long time. They may have other things going for them. That means they can charge a premium for their books that maybe you don't have at that point in time. And one of the most important things when it comes to getting the cost right for your book is to understand yourself, understand where you are as an individual, and understand where that brand you is. Because brand you actually also commands a premium. If that brand has been built up over the years, it does command a premium as well. And you may want to consider that sort of thing. Of course, like Akin said, it's important to look at the number of pages, right? So there's no point writing a book of 300 pages that suddenly takes up the cost of the book, which means that it's now going to be a lot more expensive for people to buy, and therefore they choose not to buy your book. All these kind of points are really critical to your book and getting that book out there. But one of the things that we do at Syncterface Media right from the onset is this: we encourage people to use a calculator that we have on our website. And do you want to speak to that calculator a bit?
Yeah. So basically, what that calculator does is it gives you a rough idea of how much your book is going to cost. So we spoke about the process, the whole process we go through to create the book a couple of weeks ago, and once that's all in place, what by the time you get your the finished, well, not the finished product, but the cover and the layout back, you have a rough idea of the number of pages and all that. So what that calculator does, it will tell you how much a book will cost with the number of pages of your book and the kind of cover you want, depending on whether it's a hardback, whether it's a paperback, and all that. So all you have to do is put in the number of pages, put in the kind of cover you want, and it gives you a rough idea of how much that book is going to cost.
Absolutely. And it also allows you to play around with royalties. And the point around royalty is actually very important for someone, whether it's your first book or you've published so many books before. The point around royalty is very important. And this is the way to think about it. It costs X amount to produce your book. Then you put on top of that what you want to make from every copy of your book that's sold. Then on top of that, you would usually get the distribution channel wanting a percentage for helping you distribute your book. The likes of Amazon and the other retail outlets out there. They also would want to have an idea of, they want a cut in that process for the service that they offer, and that's important. So that ability to play around with the royalty is a good thing because it helps you to, if you have at the back of your mind, I want to sell my book for £10. Even before you start, you have an idea of the number of pages the book will be. Then you have an idea of how much money you want to make from it after the trade, as it's called, has taken their commission for distributing your book. So it's really important. You don't need to be an accountant. You don't need to be a mathematician to work it out. It's a very simple process to work out, and your publisher should work with you on that process. Your publisher should take you through that process. Now, one important point before I hand over back to Akin on this is the fact that for a lot of people, that what we've just described is when you're going through pretty much the self-publishing side of things. If you're dealing with the traditional publishing side, the publisher will set what the price of the book is going to be, and usually they would pay you something upfront for the rights to publish that book. And in a lot of cases, after a while, then they start to pay you some royalty. But what I would advise and encourage people is negotiate. There may be room for negotiations along the line. Check out pricing from other publishers as well. Look at what's in the entirety of the package and make sure that you get that cost structure right. One other thing that's important, Akin, is the issue of volume discounts.
Yeah. Well, before we go, let me backtrack a bit because something just crossed my mind. I know Akin said something about, he said brand you, and that's very important. And sometimes, sometimes there's a place where, especially when you're just starting out, there's a place where you can sacrifice your royalties in a sense to build the brand. You understand where, okay, I've got this book and I want to push it out there. I want to make £5 off every single one. And after a year, you sell 2 books. You're going nowhere. Do you understand? But at times, you can sacrifice that royalty, sacrifice a percentage of your royalties to build the brand, make the book a bit cheaper, push it out there, like your life depends on it, and build the brand such that after 1 year, people actually know who you are. And then you know that by the time you release your next book, because your brand, the brand new, has grown, you can now demand, higher royalties on that book. You understand? So that part's important. So I know we're talking about royalties and making the money, but so many times you don't make the money off the first book. So many times the first book is to build yourself, to let people know who you are. And we're going to talk about marketing along the way anyway, so we'll hit on that a bit.
Yeah.
But then so we'll talk about that.
Yes, absolutely, Aki. I think maybe we should spend a bit of time on this point before we move on the brand you, because as some of you know, we're also authors. We've written our own books, and some of the things we're talking about here are some of the experiences that we have had on our own books, and the experiences we know some of our authors have also had on their books as well. And you see, brand you is actually quite important. We talked about this when we were talking about the cover. Sometimes when people buy books, they buy the brand of the author before they buy whatever that book is talking about. There are some authors, as soon as they release a new book, everybody goes in there, they want the new book from this author. All they know is maybe the title, but because that author had built a brand over time, people get to trust that brand. And that's just general marketing. Once you've gotten your brand to a certain level, you need to decide, are you a premium brand? Are you a mass market brand? Or where do you sit in the spectrum of your product pricing mix, and trying to figure that out. Now, we've noticed that now from time to time, I do a lot of speaking. And I've noticed that anytime I have to go somewhere to speak, after speaking, even if I don't say anything about some of the books that I've written, um, I notice that people go online anyway and they do some search, they find books that have been written and they buy the books, right? And that's a good thing. So when you're thinking about brand you in the context of your book, it's also important to look at how you can bring your book into the circle that you already have, that where people already know you, where you've established hopefully a reputable brand, right? And people then see the name, they want to associate with that name, they want to buy the material. And it's the same for a lot of our speakers. One of the things we've noticed since we started doing Authors Corner is that, as usual, for some of the authors who have been on, we've seen some of the stats starting to move in the right direction, and that's where marketing also comes into the picture. So, brand you is is for us one of the most important factors in you being able to sell your book. People associate that brand with you, the quality, what you do outside of your writing world. Um, but I think someone might ask the question and say, "But it's my first book. I don't do any other thing. All I do is I'm a writer, and I've just written this book. I don't have that sort of brand there." What would your advice be to someone like that?
Hey, I mean, you have to look at every beginning, isn't it? I mean, you look at the likes of all the big brands nowadays. The day they started, the brand wasn't there. The brand got known after a period of time. So it's not unusual for for you to build the brand. It's actually normal to build a brand. You understand? So it doesn't matter. Okay, I'm a new writer. This is all I do. The people out there don't care what you do or what you don't do. All they know is that, okay, this is a book written by this chap, and I don't know who he is. So that's really not the reader's business in that sense. So for you as a writer, it's your first book. It's all you do. It's paramount. It's a priority for you to want to build your brand. People need to know who you are. And like I said, I mean, there's the ground root way of doing it. Get everyone in your family involved, to get everyone they know involved, so that
Yeah.
even if it's in your little town alone, everybody knows you. Then someone from that town decides to go to the city and says, "Oh, have you heard about? No, who's he?" And I mean that's how it grows on the ground on the grassroots level. I know, but whether we like it or not, you've got to build the brand. It's not going to happen on the first day.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And I think that's one of the really nice things about self-publishing and this brand new, because a lot of people who go down the self-publishing route, people who just say, "I want to do this thing. I want to try this. I've never done it. I want to go out there." Some of the traditional publishing houses may not necessarily look their way because they may believe, well, this person doesn't have a brand. But you have to start somewhere. That's not enough for you to be discouraged because brand you hasn't been built up to where brand you needs to be. And I have this thing that really encourages me and inspires me. And it's a story from the Bible that talks about someone who is going out there to sow a seed. And there's a process. It's you take that seed, the corn, you put the corn in the ground. Initially, it will be just really small, just the air that's showing somewhere. And then before you know what's happening, you go to the full grown corn. But there was a process that took one there. Now you have sometimes people who have the big break, right? Your first book ever, nobody knew you from anywhere. and you wrote this book, you put it out there, and suddenly it became an instant success. Congratulations. But it's not everybody's journey that's going to be that. And that's why we kind of teach some of these basic principles that you can follow. If you become the person with the big break, fantastic, really good. But you don't have to be the person that has 1 million copies for you to celebrate. Sometimes if I see 50 pence, I remember the very first book. Akin, I don't know if you remember that story. The very first book that we published, and the check, we used the publishing company at the time, and a check came back for the royalties, and I think it was £1.10 or something like that. But for us, it was exciting because we had seen that journey all the way around. Somebody bought this book. Now I'm getting the reward for the book. And, celebrate what you get when you get it. Don't get discouraged that my book didn't sell like I wanted it to sell. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit, right? And then you're talking somewhere, you're saying something somewhere, people discover you've written a book, and suddenly they rush and they buy the book, right? So don't get discouraged. Be consistent as you go about the process, and ultimately you will be successful. You will find that people will start to buy your book.
Yeah. And one little thing there, since you were saying that, I remember when I went for a job interview, and you get to that place where everybody starts talking and we're discussing and say, oh yeah, what are your hobbies and all that, and obviously it's on my CV, and the chap goes, oh, you write, so what do you write and all that, and spoke about that and said, oh, have you written a book? And I said, oh, actually, yeah, I have. And this is how interesting these things are. Told him what the name of the book is, and what right there during the interview, he goes, oh, is this you? I said, oh, wow. So why do you want to join the company then? And that just went into a whole different scenario. Well, long and short, I got the job. I'm not sure whether it's because I wrote the book or and all that. But it's interesting how how those things pop up, because suddenly that same chap interviews me, and he basically tells the whole office, oh, do you know he's an author? And that's how those things grow. Yeah. And talking about that also, I think one thing we skipped, permit me to go back there.
Sure.
Is the issue of the foreword in your book.
Absolutely.
We talk about these things a lot. When there's a brand you, and there's a part where some instant successes have been the fact that, oh, guess who wrote the foreword for my book? Obama. Wow. Okay. If he wrote the foreword for that book, it's got to be good. It's got to be good. And then suddenly, you've got like 2 million copies sold, and everyone knows who Akin Olunloyo is. Yes. But that's how it is. So there are those, and that's why it's important at times when who's writing the foreword for your book, and why are you picking that person to do it? Because that person, the influence that person can also carry, and what it can bring to what you're writing, can also say a lot about you and the brand that the brand you. And so when you're doing that, also look at if you want a foreword for your book. Think about it well, and it could do wonders for you.
Yes, absolutely. Think about it carefully, because somebody said something very interesting in a session I was part of. I think it was last week or so, and it was this: that if you are part of someone's, if you want to be part of someone's success, you should also be committed to be part of their failure. And what the person was saying was this, not specifically in the context of books, but it applies to the concept of the foreword. And the reason it applies is this: you may get someone to write a foreword for your book at a time where maybe they were very celebrated. Everybody loved them. They were the talk of the town, had very good reputation. And then somewhere down the line, a scandal breaks out. And suddenly now everybody starts to drop that particular individual. And a forward is effectively an endorsement, right? Yeah, but something breaks out, and suddenly people start to drop that person, dissociate from them, and all of that. You've got to think about those kind of things and say, where do I want to be? What do I want to do when these things happen? And be there for people, and people will be there for you as well. Not just when things are good, but if things go bad. They wrote the forward of the book. Hey, they wrote the forward, and that's them. People do make mistakes in life, but I think it's important also to weigh all these things when you're thinking about the forward. And Aki, let's move to the conversation around marketing, because marketing is something that traditionally, as a business, we haven't been involved in. We focused more on establishing that production process, making sure we can churn out as many books, quality books, as we can. But now things are changing. Now that we've established that part, we've got that part in order. Aki, do you want to talk briefly on the importance of marketing? We've talked about brand you, of course, but there are other things people can do to push their books. Do you want to touch on one or two of those?
Yeah. So marketing, in a sense, that's basically a way of selling your book, getting your book out there for the world to see. So we spoke about distribution channels and all that, but hey, maybe some people don't go online to buy books. We've spoken about how you can get your books onto the shelves of stores, in different ways. But things like how do people get to know about your book? Now nowadays it's pretty interesting because back in the day you'd organize what they call these things now, where you organize like launches, and you launch your book. You get people to come in. You've got a chairman. They launch the book and you read it a bit, so people know about your book there, and they go out and spread the message of your book. But nowadays it's even more interesting now because of social media. So now, rather than you get people actually doing their book launches not physically but actually using some form of social media. So you could do a book launch on Facebook, Instagram, and whatever it is. And what do they use most of the time? They use visual communication most of the time. And can I continue?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they use visual communication, and I remember when I was in university, I used to tell people that I'm a visual learner, and that's because for me to understand things, for things to click a lot for me, I need to be able to see it, and that might not be seeing it physically, but I need to see it in my mind, and then I can do it. And I mean, I've read in places where it says that when it comes to visual communication being so powerful, it's got nothing really to do with the pretty pictures and all that stuff. It's actually the science, because it's a proven fact that the brain absorbs and synthesizes visual information faster than any other stimuli, and basically what that does is that it simply makes visual content an effective medium. So that's one area we're going into now. We're going into visual marketing. And Akin, do you want to say a bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And marketing is really just getting your book out there. And before we go into the specifics of that, I think one of the things that's important here is that you need to be intentional about the success that you want. There's no point spending so much time to write your book, the number of days, weeks, months, even years, depending on what you're writing, to write your book, and then you end up not getting it in the hands of people who are going to read it. So the process or the cycle is not complete until your book is in the hands of someone and it's making a difference in the life of that person. So don't stop with the book being out there. Don't stop with, I've now done the official launch ceremony of my book. I've got friends together. Everybody has come together. They've seen the book. Yes, they've bought 5 copies for themselves. They've taken a few copies to give to friends and things like that. Don't stop there, right? Think about replicating the process for other people. And by doing that, now you get into this space of marketing. And like we've been talking about from the beginning, marketing doesn't actually start when the book is complete. Marketing starts right at the onset, where you're thinking about how much someone is going to pay for the book, where you're thinking about brand you and the impact that brand you is going to have on the book. And then you now get to the marketing side of things, which is, how do I make this material visually appealing to someone who wants to buy the book? How do I make it appealing to someone who wants to read the book? Because look, the number of times maybe you were watching television or you were online and an ad popped up, and you looked at the ad and you were like, actually, I'd really like that. I'd really love that. And by looking at that thing, then you start searching online and you see the thing and you look for the best prices and you buy what you need. Now, all they're doing there is putting what people need where people normally look, so they can find them there and then decide they want to buy them. And as Aki said, and it's a trend on the internet, in the digital world. Video is always better than just doing a static graphic, because with video you can communicate emotion. With video you can communicate so many things. And one of the things that I've not done this before, but let me see if I can get 1 or 2 of the video clips we showed at the beginning back on screen, so you can see what we're starting to do for some of our authors as a new service that we're bringing out there. Let's see if I've never done this, but fingers crossed. All right, let's go. So it's going to be 2 clips and then we'll come back. Watch this.
Pain. I have learned over time that pain has a personality. It can take over completely, to either paralyze you in defeat or propel you in strength to a place where you find purpose. It could be the pain of a business loss, a relationship gone sour, a failed career, a failed marriage, or, in my case, a child buried too early. Whatever your pain is, you can choose how to allow that pain to determine the outcome of your life. Walk with me through my journey of how I have allowed my pain to grow into a purpose so amazing and glorious. Justin. Growing Through the Pain of Loss is a real-life account worth reading. Get your copy from Amazon and other leading online retail bookstores.
Okay, minus the last part.
Yes, so first time, but what we're trying to show with that is try to get something that's more visually appealing to your audience, because then it means that they're more likely to interact with it. And something quite important to point out here is that in the past, people used to say, "Hey, quality doesn't matter. Just get something out there, put it out there. It doesn't matter. It's social media." I think that narrative is changing because the entry point to getting really good quality out there has started to fall. In most cases, all you need is a really good phone. Get a really good phone out. You can capture some really good footage. Obviously, it's if you want it done professionally, it needs to be done professionally. But you can capture some really good footage that you can then bring back and use. And also, there are loads of tools out there that you can also buy if you want to do it yourself and you believe you want to do it yourself. Or, of course, look for an agency that can help you with building the marketing around your material, right? So it's not just creating a video, it's making the video tell a story, making the video communicate an emotion to the person who is likely to buy your book. All these things are important in getting your book in front of people who may even just look at it, right? And some people have said this. It takes about 7 impressions. This is what the professionals are saying, about 7 impressions for an advert to register. So and what that means is you may see it the first time, it may not really register. You may see it the second time, but then if you see it repeatedly, then it clicks. Somebody looks at that and says, "What exactly is this thing that I've been seeing?" And that's where marketing gets really important. And at Syncterface Media, one of the things we've now started to do is, and we'll be talking more about this in the near future as we start to build out our marketing services that not only will help authors to create videos like the ones we've just shown, but will also help people who want to create that kind of marketing experience in other areas, could also take advantage of that kind of service. So, Akin, marketing done. We've arranged.
Sorry, one second.
Sure, go for it. Go for it.
So talking about marketing again, and the important thing which I can did touch there was that marketing your book starts way before the book before it actually hits the stores. You understand? Now, what captures me a lot with the visual marketing side of things is that you can begin to tell a story about something that's going to be released in a month, such that by the time the day of your book launch comes, the number of people that know about it is crazy.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And that's because you've put this thing in front of so many eyes. Eyes are like, "Oh, when is it? Oh, have you heard?" Suddenly people that never knew your name start saying your name. Why is that? Because they just saw a visual come up and it's like, "Oh, who's that? Akin Akinyemi? Who's he?" And then see it again. Like I said, see that 7 times. What that does is suddenly what now happens is that there's an expectation being created.
Absolutely.
You understand? Before you know what's happening, the visuals that they've told you about. Oh, this is what this book is about. This is what's going to happen, or and you're just so excited. The funny thing is that you can now buy the book and it doesn't meet your expectations. But guess what? You will buy the book because you've gotten to that stage where it's like, man, I've just got to lay my hands on that book. I've got to get that tape. I've got to get that, and before you know what's happening, you're buying the book. And that's the importance. That's really a lovely thing about, marketing, and especially visual marketing in that sense. You can tell a story to the launch dates, such that by the time the launch date comes, you've got so many people queuing up to buy your book. Yeah, I mean, it's mind blowing. So yeah, I just thought I'd chip that in. And then, yeah.
Yes, a very good. I think it's a very important point, overall, that people take time to market the work you have done. Take your time, and even though we do a lot of Christian books, um, and one of the reasons we actually picked this niche is because a lot of people have a lot of things to say. There are a lot of people that read quite widely. They've got their own personal experiences. They've got, what they have experienced in God. And once you start to share your story as part of that Great Commission, one of the really good ways to do it is to put that together in a book and share that out there for other people to read. So what we're saying here is, don't underestimate the impact of your marketing efforts when you're thinking about your book. And that's why we started this from the cost perspective. Figure out how much people want to pay for this, and then move on from there. Am I good to move to the next topic?
Yeah, you can go. You can go.
Okay, great. Now, one of the other areas that's very, very important is this. It's the big R, as we call it, and that's royalties. Now that you've spent all your energy, your effort writing the book, your intellectual capacity writing the book, you've invested in some form of really good marketing. Now, what happens? Actually, something just popped in my mind now that it's important for us to raise. You see, particularly for authors who are coming at it from the Christian background. A lot of times people say, "Well, I'm not really need to make money. I just want to bless people." I say, yes, make money while you're blessing people. You'll be able to bless more people. while you approach it that way. And there's also debate about being a good steward of what God has made available to you. So you're not just investing in something and there would be no return. Obviously, if you're giving to charity, that's a different case. You know that this is a charity piece of work that you're doing. But if it's not charity, then go through with the process and work on getting what you need out of it. But the point is this: royalties is how you get your money back, in a sense. Is how you get the financial reward that comes from writing your book. That's how it comes. And that's for every copy of your book sold, you get a percentage of it. Because people are going to be blessed by it, people are going to read it, they're going to be excited about it. And books are one of the most powerful means of changing a mindset. Think about it, the number of minds that have changed because they read a book, the number of minds that has people who have decided to do something different because they read a book, people who were going down a certain route in life and they decided to change route because they read a book. So books are really powerful, and in fact, it's one of the highest paying professions that can be, if you get it right and you can make the right adjustments. Now, when it comes to royalties, there are a few things you need to understand. And the first thing is, one, at the time you were going through the cost process and you were setting the price for the book, you had factored in how much royalty you want to make. Now, there's also something really important, which is the centralized management of royalties. And there are 2 points we want to raise here, which I think I'm going to pass to Akin to raise. One is what we do when it comes to centralized royalty. And the second point is what happens when people order directly Then they go to, maybe they order 100 copies because they want to sell somewhere. And what happens at that point? What is the royalties position at that point? Akin, do you want to take those two questions?
Oh, do I? Yes. What was the first question again?
So the first question is, for royalties, talk us through centralized management of royalties. And then the second question is, how do you deal with people who buy in bulk? And then, because we've had a situation where someone bought in bulk and was asking for royalties on that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll flip it over. What happens when you buy in bulk? Now, when you buy in bulk, what happens is that you're buying your book at a price which kind of, well, at a cheaper price, which in a sense takes away the royalties. So when you buy your book in bulk, or when you buy your book in bulk to sell on, what you're doing is that you're buying your book, and then when you sell at a price which is where you make your money. So when you're buying the book in bulk, you're not getting any royalties in that sense. The royalties you will get will be when you sell your book on personally. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Make sense? Yeah. So that's what happens. So when you buy your book in bulk from the publisher or from there are no royalties on what you bought. The money you will make off the book will be the money you make when you're selling the book personally, wherever you're selling it. So that's that on that one. Then, John.
Yes, what I was going to say to that is, because you buy the book at a discount, you've also got that flexibility as well, when you're setting the price for the book. So, we've had cases where people have said, oh, I can get the book cheaper elsewhere. And how come people are able to play around with these cost items? And it's because of this thing Akin has just described there. An author may buy, I'm sure that for some of you who may be watching this back, you may wonder, maybe you've been to some programs and you hear things like, buy this book today, you get the second one free, or you get the second one half price, those kind of things. Well, what has happened there is that the author or the organization selling the book could have bought at a discount, and they want to shift the stock that they have. And that's one reason why they could do something like that. Just to make sure that it gets into the hands of people. So don't be discouraged if you suddenly find that a particular website, for example, might be selling your book at, say, maybe your book was £9, and you look at this website, they might be selling it at £7. Well, they may have chosen to give up some of what they were going to make on the book so they could shift stock or things like that. There are a number of reasons why you can have that variation, and what Akin describes there is one of such reasons. Akin.
And another thing about buying, it's an advantage in a sense. And when you buy your book in bulk, like Akin said, you can now determine what you want to do, because suddenly you're not paying a trade discount to someone who's helping you sell your book.
Yeah,
you understand. So maybe Amazon that says that, oh, we're gonna take 45% of that price and all that. Suddenly that's out of the picture. So you brought your own book at a discount, and now you're selling it. So like Akin said, you can decide to say you can buy one and get one free, and guess what? You still make more money than how much you would have made if it was sold on Amazon.
Yeah.
So there are these things that happen where you just need to know, it can work in that way. You understand? But like I normally say, the good thing about having your book being distributed worldwide, it's like money while you sleep. You're not doing, you've done all the hard work. You're sleeping, and someone is buying a book in China, money is coming to your account. Someone is buying a book in Australia, money is coming to your account. Do you understand? So suddenly it's like, oh, like we said initially, Akin said the first check he got for his book was a particular amount. Same thing with me, it's something pretty small, but at the end of the day, it was something that came in while I wasn't looking.
Absolutely.
Do you understand? And that's the joy of knowing that's the joy of this whole scenario where you know that I've done the work, I've pushed it out there, and I can close my eyes knowing that royalties are going to be coming in.
Yeah.
You understand? So then the centralized management of royalties. Now, so here we are. We've got this scenario where your book is being sold worldwide. The question is, how do I know how much is coming from this online store in China or this online store in America and all that? Now, what we have here, we've got like a centralized management system where, in a sense, when the money comes in, we know where it's come from and all that. We know which stores bought your books from which country, and at the end of every quarter, what we do is we give you like an itemized report and a check telling you this is your book's been bought and this is how much.
All paid to their account.
All paid into your account, yeah, and that's what happens. Why shouldn't be paid? Oh yeah, I guess that part is very important.
Absolutely, absolutely, and then you just see the alert. Yeah, just put some money.
Oh, yeah. and basically that's what it is. So what it is that it's called centralized because you don't have to bother about where your book's being bought from. We take care of that. All you know is that okay, at the end of we normally do that every quarter, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we normally do that every quarter, and what you do, we'll send you a report of like this is where your book's been bought, and if you check your account, that amount at the bottom of that sheet of that report is sitting in your account, and yeah, that is it.
Exactly. So I think we've got about 3 minutes left, and we'll just wrap up on this particular point. I think there's still some more which maybe we'll address next week, because I'm sure that there are a few more questions on this part and some points that we've picked up over the years that we'll still want to give out there for those who are maybe new to the process. But it's important when you're choosing, and maybe next week we'll deal with the issue of copyrights. It was one thing we were going to try to deal with today, but we'll probably deal with copyright issues. So a lot of people have asked the question, somebody wants to print the book out in a different country, or how do you address those kind of things? And we'll talk you through. We'll talk you through this process on how you do that. But yes, when it comes to the centralized management, it's important to, whatever publisher you're going to use, look out there for this kind of things. Make sure that you've agreed what that amount is going to be at the point that you were publishing the book. So it's not something that you now start to debate how much royalty is after the book has gone out. These are things that should have come in at the entry level when you were discussing the book, even before you start the process or you commit to the process. Step through it. Now, there's some things in the publication process that could affect royalties, and look, your royalties will always be linked to the cost of the book and the cost of production of the book. And you may find out that while you have a guide price, which is what we do, we say this is a guide, and we'll give you a recommended retail price for your book. But it's also important that we highlight this fact that you go through a process. When we get to the end and we finalize the number of pages in the book, then you can be firm. And that guide price, you would really be a factor of about, maybe a few percentage points of the guide price is what it would usually turn out to be. So anything that happens in the production process will ultimately affect what the cost of what your royalties would be. So it's important. Look for somewhere centralized. You can go to bed at night and know that this is going to be handled for you. It's something you should have agreed in writing with your publisher before you even start to part with any kind of funds or anything like that. Now we've run out of time. Thank you for those who have joined and commented on liked these clips or shared these clips on the different channels. One thing we'll touch on next week, we'll talk about, like I said, the copyright issues, and we'll talk about a few more points you need to understand and you need to know about your book. And hopefully we will also pick one of our books and we will talk to you about that, so you can see some of the material we've got that will bless you and will make a difference to you. Akin, any last points before we break? And we're going to show some clips. There's some videos at the end of this, which I think you should look at as well for the video services. Akin, any last parting shots?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the thing about the videos. So watch out for the videos after the after this, and I think next week we should also touch on, because someone was asking the question about trade discounts. So we'll talk about that in detail next week also.
Absolutely. All right, thank you all for joining us today, and we will see you again next week. Anything we need to be aware of on here? No, thank you. See you next week.
Dreams that you would love to see fulfilled? Then, Desire to Destiny is for you. Hopes are dashed, and people are left frustrated and disappointed because they rely solely on willpower and hard work to get them to their desired destinations. Desire to Destiny is a practical 30-day guide that teaches key success strategies from God's Word that, if applied, will take you from the first step of identifying the true desires of your heart through to experiencing the full manifestation. From the pages of this book, you will learn about topics like the art of meditation, learning to unlearn, the true cost of offense, the strength to walk away, and much more. Get started on this exciting devotional journey and watch great things happen in your life. Get your copy today. Don't miss the opportunity.